Ole, our panel is reduced by one today, but we are joined by Rebecca Carnes yet again. Cody is tending to some personal business today, and when we begin our sponsor exclusive segment on patreon.com/lightonconspiracies, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth, we're going to be joined by Dr. Jim Fetzer, and we're going to be exploring this lawsuit that was brought against him in relation to the topic we were discussing last week. Now, I think it's important that we don't mention certain things because, first of all, how are you both doing today? Ole, Rebecca?
Doing great, thank you.
I'm doing great. I'm in my car. I'm not in the run from any attackers or anything. Just lost my power, so I'm in a new location.
You know, that's right. A lot of people here on the East Coast, outside of New York City, in Connecticut, Long Island, and elsewhere, no power for several days. It's been really just another inconvenience on top of all of the stuff that everybody's had to deal with. But before we get into the other topics that we want to cover today, because there are a few, I want to make sure that people know we're going to be having, I don't know if anybody's really had this conversation before, but this is going to be a really important conversation with Dr. Fetzer about this lawsuit. Ole, what do you want to tell us about this? And before we begin, I want to be careful that we don't mention the incident itself, or frankly, even the title of the book that you guys authored, because I believe that YouTube has determined just the title of the book, according to them, incites violence against vulnerable individuals. So even showing it or talking about it, we can be subject to punitive action by YouTube.
Yep, interesting. It says a lot, I would say. It's, Voltaire said to find out who controls you, just look at who you are not allowed to criticize. And here we have again, every time there's something they don't want us to see, they try and shut us down. But why? What are the interests of not looking into these things? What is the power behind it, that behind this and so many other cases that have made, I don't know, I think I've got hundreds of videos deleted because of hate speech. And right. I'm like, hate speech against who? But then again, these are really interesting times, we can say that without exaggeration, because here, I would say very honorable people are like being hit very brutally right, left, and center. And you have to ask yourself after a while, what the hell is going on here? And this is why Jim's case is, I think, really interesting, because he is one of the people that have been standing up in this case and many other cases very courageously. And this is what happens. I have 4 different university professors that I know of who've lost their jobs because they've stood up and talked about the official story in 9/11 and stuff. Both in I have one friend in Holland who lost his job as a professor at one of these big universities. James Tracy as well in the US. You got there's several of them, and this is just the way this game is being played up until now, because right. I tell you, some of us won't back down, and this is also, it just shows the desperation behind these forces, that they take such brutal steps to stop any kind of criticism or any kind of exposure, but they're running out of time. And anyway, what can I say? It's in one way super depressing. In another way, it's really interesting. And well, we live in not boring times. I can say
right.
that.
Now, Ole, sorry, Rebecca, is one of the people that you're talking about Dr. Catherine Horton? I know she's been sued. She's in Switzerland doing a lot of research into 5G and directed energy. She's involved in a lot of lawsuits with international people. Is she one of the people you were thinking of?
No, but I know Catherine. I've met her in Switzerland as well, and she used to work at CERN. So this is, once again, you got insiders that step forward with information that the dark agenda is not very happy about being released, so they hit back.
Yeah, and Rebecca, you're there in Newtown, Connecticut. You've been experiencing some of your own extravagant adventures, simply going and speaking at a public, an allegedly public forum. It was a public building, but a closed meeting where Beto O'Rourke was there talking to the townspeople. And when you asked him certain questions about a certain incident, the crowd reacted to you in a very strange way. People can visit your blog, the Newtown Rooster, and they're going to be able to view that clip and learn about the daily posts that you're making. What can you say, Rebecca, with regard to Dr. Fetzer, his lawsuit, and the conversation we're going to have with him in just about 25 minutes?
Right, and that's right. Dr. Fetzer is facing some very heavy-duty lawfare, as you call it, Jason, as many call it. But, you know, this kind of tamp down on free speech goes beyond the courtroom. We all feel it, and I'm just feeling it now with trying to upload some videos onto a certain video platform, and I was given a hate speech violation. And here I am. I was talking about a certain event that happened in my town. I am a Newtown resident, a Newtown mother with kids in the school system. I'm presenting my own opinion. I'm presenting my own journalistic research into this event in my hometown. And I was given on my YouTube channel, I was given a hate speech violation. My video was taken down that I put up regarding an interview about an event that took place in my town. And a hate speech violation against who? And here I am, a long-time third-generation Newtown resident, presenting my own opinion, presenting my own research, and I was giving a hate speech violation. And now I have a warning against my channel. I can't upload any more videos about this event. So I only have three. I have three little kind of benign, harmless videos up. And these three videos I have up, I put up before I kind of came to the realization as to the truth behind this event that happened in my town, meaning what we were served up as the true official story about this event in my hometown is not really what happened. And I really, Jason, came to that awakening at that Beto O'Rourke meeting in my hometown of Newtown last October. That's when people presented me after I confronted Beto O'Rourke, then presidential candidate. People confronted me about Agenda 21 and false flags and introduced these terms to me that I had no concept of. And once I went down that road and started exploring what are these things, what really happened in my hometown, boy, it's been quite a roller coaster of mind-opening experiences and discovery since then, last October, yeah.
Yeah, and people can see right there in the video on your YouTube channel that even though there are police present, it's actually a civilian, just a member of the meeting who comes over. That seems strange for somebody to do, particularly a man to do to a woman when there are police there. I think most people would just say, let me just allow the police to handle this. I want to be very clear about one thing. I agree with everything that you guys are saying. And the problem that we have as individuals who want to be a voice in this search for the truth, we've got to be extra careful, because you said something super important, Rebecca, that I absolutely agree with. What happened in that town on that day is not what we've been told happened. And there are so many events like that, but I want to be clear. Just because we believe and have lots of evidence that causes us to believe that something other than what we're told is what actually occurred, I want to be careful that we don't jump to incorrect conclusions, because this is such a complex event. And I think sometimes when they set these things up, Ole, they put in these sort of booby traps that they want people like you, people like Rebecca, people like me, people like Dr. Fetzer. They want us to get caught in these traps so that the event, as they say, never let a good crisis go to waste. They want the event to have multiple outcomes, and one of them is suppression of conversation in social media and elsewhere outside the confines of what they want discussed. Have you observed that at all, Ole?
Yeah, and I don't really appreciate comments about jumping to conclusions, since this is based on many, 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 many years of very deep investigation into very similar things, and it's just one of them. So I totally agree. It's super important not to jump to any conclusions, but I don't feel that I'm one doing it. I don't feel Fetzer is either.
I didn't accuse you. I just said it's important for each of us to not do that.
I totally agree.
In any incident. Yeah.
But it comes to when you looked into it for years and you got like mountains building up of evidence showing that the official story is absolute BS and that there's something totally different that was carried out that day. That side of the evidence is like a mountain, and the official story is like a negative mountain. It doesn't even exist. There's no truth, more or less, in it at all. So you come to a place where it's like, okay, you just have to accept. And I also want to point out, for me, it's not important to prove anything. I'm not here to prove my point. I couldn't care less if it was just a matter of my personal point of view. That is of no interest. What is of interest is what happened and how is it being used against us. Because it's not the events themselves. It is what kind of solution are we being fed afterwards. That is the one, because these things would never have happened had it not been for the solution they want to deliver, that we would not accept had it not been for the problem. So,
right. And the thing that I'm trying to avoid for all of us and people in the future who want to discuss these kind of controversial topics is that we need to be able to navigate this minefield with the knowledge that there are very sophisticated lawyers who are in one way or another working for the opposition. And even though we might have a mountain of evidence, one wrong word could land us in court and could destroy the whole operation. Bad choice of words, the whole effort. And I'm fearful that something like that may have been what happened with Dr. Fetzer, and it's why I think today's show is so important. Unfortunately, we live in a society where we can't just decide that we disagree with the cops and throw firebombs at them. We can't just decide that we disagree with the court and say or do whatever we want, because they have power over us as long as we live in the United States and various other countries, and certainly unless we want to go off into a cave somewhere and become, kind of like independent from society, we've got to coexist. And if you get a huge $450,000 judgment against you, it's going to complicate your day-to-day life. I'm very interested in finding out how this has affected Dr. Fetzer, what he's doing moving forward, what his options are to appeal this, how the judgment came about, etc. I have come to understand through the conversations we've had the past several weeks, even though I didn't look deeply into this, I suspected obviously there were problems, just from our conversations, Ole, but I haven't read the book, and I didn't know really any of these facts until Rebecca started sharing them with us. I am fully convinced that something other than what we're told happened there. I just want to make sure we all understand how these things can be discussed and where the peril lies for each of us if we're careless in how we discuss it, because we're walking right into the trap that they've set for us, potentially.
Yeah. And here's the thing, Jason, it's not like we are, like you said, throwing rocks at police, throwing rocks at the court system. We are simply speaking our opinion, but not just our opinion. We are doing our own independent research and presenting that research that happens to be alternate in conflict with the official story we've been given, not just on this event that happened in my hometown, but and many events that have happened in the country and across the world. And this is the essence of free speech. As citizens of the United States, or as most countries that have freedoms like free speech across the world, we should be able to counter and debate what has been presented to us by the government and otherwise the media as to the official story of any event that happens, especially in these events that terrorize the American people and terrorize people across the world. Now, they talk, this is the thing, we get these hate speech violations, but you know what I consider to be hateful? I consider that my freedom of speech tamped down when I'm just presenting my research and opinion is labeled as hate speech. When I'm presenting facts to the contrary of these events that are, in fact, in my opinion, very hateful and terrorizing to the citizens of this country, but particularly myself who lives in this town where this event happened, and my children that continue to go to that school system. So these people preach about kindness and empathy, and they write these books after these events about kindness and empathy. They have these nonprofit companies, these nonprofit institutions that talk about kindness and empathy, and then they level hate speech violations against us when we're just exercising our freedom of speech and presenting alternate facts to the official story. Ridiculous, absurd, violation of our constitutional rights. It's absurd, and that's what's hateful, not me speaking my opinion and presenting facts contrary to the official story, that's for sure.
I agree, Rebecca. Ole, I want to draw something to your attention. Look at the hands in this Sandy Hook promise. I've noticed, as Rebecca just pointed out, there are a number of 501c3s, nonprofit organizations seeking donations to stop gun violence that have been created in the name of this event. And this is the second one I've observed that makes prominent use of the hands. And we always have conversations about these different symbols. What were you going to tell us, Ole?
Do you know, in a society that works the way it's supposed to, at least in my opinion, we have the media who's there to keep check on government. That's one of the big ones for journalists, to make sure that government people are doing what they're supposed to do, that they're not running away with our money, that they're not doing any illegal stuff under the, behind the veils and whatever. But we are at a point now where mainstream media is part of these operations.
Yeah.
That's the scary thing. So instead of media doing the work, where we have to so that we can relax and feel free and like, thank God that they have a check on them, it's the exact opposite now, where this media is being used as a tool against us. Media is super important in these operations, and it's 95% against us. 95% in these operations against us, to fiddle around with us, to send us all kind of red herrings, just like you were warning about. Very important, just like you say, not to jump to any conclusion, really dig and find out what is actually going on. But it's like, when you do that, what reporters, heavyweight reporters, should do, when they're not doing it, what are you supposed to do? And it's like, Rebecca is even working as a reporter on location and didn't even understand what was going on. That for me is like a bit, like, how is that even possible? I'm sure that you feel that the same now when you come to this understanding, but I would be very interested in how is it possible that you did not notice anything?
I know it's unbelievable, but I was someone that was just listened to the mainstream media. I mean, I listened to CNN, I listened to Fox News, for a little differentiation, but I just listened to the mainstream media, and nowhere in the mainstream media are you going to find any presentation of any alternative facts to the mainstream story about this event that happened in my town. I mean,
let me pause you for a second, Rebecca, because even right there, that choice of the word alternative facts, it's something that the mainstream media seized on when one of the president's cabinet used that phrase. I think we might have lost Rebecca. I think what you mean is an alternative opinion, a look at contravening facts, different facts, alternative facts. Although I know what you mean, it's been twisted to mean an alternative to fact. And this is exactly the type of word game that's constantly being played, Ole, with basically everything that we say. And this is what I'm getting at. My focus for today is that we all, in doing what you're talking about, Ole, in trying to be the responsible news that actually tells people what they want to hear, the facts of what's going on. We know we're under attack. We know we're operating in the enemy's playground. YouTube has no obligation to give us freedom of speech in their forum. It is exactly analogous to, Ole, if you and I opened a restaurant in Spain and we welcome members of the public to it, but when someone is disruptive and disturbing the other customers or insults you or whatever, we reserve the right as owners of the restaurant to invite that person to exercise their free speech outside of our restaurant. And frankly, YouTube has the right to do that. I think they've engaged in monopolistic and anti-competitive business practices. I think they violate the terms of their own service, and I think there are ways that they can be pursued in the legal system. But the problem is, we as the little pipsqueaks who aren't billionaires who own CNN or Fox News or the Washington Post, we are forced to fight these guys on their terms, with their rules, their tools, and with the tables stacked against us in their favor. And I'm very interested in exploring this and seeing where Dr. Fetzer got jammed up so that each of us can learn from this experience and avoid it happening in the future, because I'm convinced, Ole, that each of these operations have a component exactly like this in it. A tar baby that once we start touching it, your arm gets stuck in it, and then you try to get your arm out, your other arm gets stuck in it, and then you're trapped. That's what I want to avoid, and I'm looking forward to talking to Dr. Fetzer about that. Let's just give me some final thoughts before we get Rebecca back on the call.
I totally agree with you, and I've seen that in several cases, court cases, where parents have had their children molested, and where these children have been brought into different satanic networks and stuff like that. When they've tried to take this to court, it's like the court will check out how much they've got, what they've got on their hand, and then it doesn't matter. The more proof they bring onto the table, the harder the court will hit them back. You know, I'm now talking about rigged cases, rigged court cases. I'm not saying that about everything, but I'm saying that in around certain of these type of operations, there is like a built-in sledgehammer waiting. If you start messing around, they have it built in. So I think it's a very correct observation you're doing. And also I understand why you're careful, since you are in the US. I'm not. So I can totally understand where you're coming from. At the same time, we need to do this type of thing as well. So there is a risk. There's also a duty to do it if you are somebody who cares about where you live and the world and people around you. Somebody needs to take these stands, even though it's scary sometimes.
Absolutely. And the only thing that I'm trying to get to, Ole, is that if we watch one of our colleagues walk into a buzzsaw, I want to make sure we know how skinny we got to get up against the wall to avoid that blade as we shimmy through and share the information with everybody, because just charging right at it again is going to get us chopped in half. So we're going to proceed in just about 5 minutes. People can join us on patreon.com/lightonconspiracies, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. It's extremely important that people who value this information and want it to continue coming, it's extremely important that they join us on these sponsored platforms, Ole. And thank you for helping me create this platform and continuing to do what you do. People who want to learn more about Ole can go to lightonconspiracies.com. You can purchase his book, some of which have titles that YouTube doesn't even want me to show. So it's highly sensitive information, and I hope that people will go visit lightonconspiracies.com, sponsor Ole, sponsor Crowdsource the Truth, and join us on Subscribestar and Patreon. We'll see you there in just 5 minutes.